Ryan Northwood stared in disbelief at his brother's latest scheme. A double date? Have you lost your mind, Alex? The restaurant reservation confirmation glowed mockingly on his phone screen, a testament to his brother's interference in his non-existent love life. You need to get out more, Alex insisted, leaning against the doorframe of Ryan's home office. At 32, Ryan had built an empire in custom luxury yacht design, amassing a fortune that afforded him this clifftop mansion overlooking the Pacific. You can't just hide away in this palace designing boats for other rich people. When's the last time you even spoke to a woman who wasn't a client or an employee? Ryan ran his hand through his dark hair, exasperation evident in his steel-gray eyes. I don't have time for dating. The Monaco contract will still be there on Monday, Alex interrupted. It's one dinner, Rye. My girlfriend's bringing her colleague. Megan's smart, beautiful, and completely unimpressed by wealth. You might actually have to work for her attention. Ryan scoffed. And that's supposed to convince me. The fact that she has no idea who you are should. When was the last time you met someone who didn't Google you before shaking your hand? Alex smiled knowingly. Saturday, 8 o'clock. Wear something that doesn't scream I'm worth 9 figures. As his brother left, Ryan turned back to his computer, the complex 3D rendering of his latest design filling the screen. He'd built Northwood Marine from nothing, transforming his childhood passion for boats into an internationally acclaimed design firm. His creations graced the waters from St. Tropez to Dubai, each vessel a floating masterpiece commanding 8-figure price tags. Yet here he was, being manipulated into a blind date like some desperate college kid. Saturday arrived too quickly. Ryan stood before his closet, deliberately selecting the plainest outfit he owned: dark jeans and a navy button-down. No watch, no designer labels. If this Megan preferred substance over status, he'd play along, if only to prove to Alex that his perpetual singleness was a choice, not a condition that needed fixing. The restaurant Alex had chosen was refreshingly unpretentious, a small Italian place in a converted Victorian house, well regarded but not impossible to book without his name. Ryan arrived 15 minutes early, a habit from years of high-stakes business meetings. Mr. Northwood. The host approached with a professional smile. Your brother called. They're running a few minutes behind. Can I seat you at your table? Ryan nodded, following him to a corner table partially hidden by a decorative olive tree. Good, at least Alex had considered his privacy. He ordered a glass of Barolo and settled in, absent-mindedly scrolling through emails. He was so absorbed that he didn't notice her approach until she was standing beside the table. Excuse me, is this the Northwood reservation? Her voice carried a musical quality that immediately commanded his attention. Ryan looked up into the most striking amber-brown eyes he'd ever seen. They belonged to a woman with honey-blonde hair falling in loose waves past her shoulders, dressed in a simple emerald dress that complemented her slender frame. Yes, but I think you might have the wrong, he began, assuming she was a fan who'd somehow recognized him. Great. I'm Megan Keller, Alex's girlfriend's friend. She extended her hand with a warm smile. You must be Ryan. His brain short-circuited momentarily as he stood and took her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. Yes, Ryan Northwood, nice to meet you. Lauren texted that they're stuck in traffic, some accident on the 101. She slid into the chair across from him. She suggested we go ahead and order appetizers. Ryan nodded, strangely tongue-tied. He'd negotiated multimillion-dollar contracts without breaking a sweat, yet here he was, struggling to form a coherent sentence. So, Alex tells me you work with boats, Megan asked, picking up the menu. Ryan nearly choked on his wine. That's one way to put it. He cleared his throat. I design yachts. Like sailboats, her brow furrowed slightly, more like private vessels for clients. He deliberately kept it vague, curious to see how long he could maintain his anonymity. Megan nodded, seemingly uninterested in pressing for details. That sounds creative. Do you enjoy it? I do. It combines engineering, aesthetics, and functionality. Every design is a unique challenge. Ryan found himself relaxing slightly. What about you? Alex wasn't exactly forthcoming with details. I'm a marine biologist, actually. I work at the Coastal Research Institute. Her eyes lit up as she spoke. Currently studying the impact of human-made structures on marine ecosystems. Ryan leaned forward, genuinely intrigued. That's fascinating. Does that include the environmental impact of vessels like the ones I design? Absolutely. Large private yachts can have substantial ecological footprints: fuel consumption, waste disposal, anchor damage to seabeds. She paused, looking slightly embarrassed. Sorry, I didn't mean to criticize your work. Don't apologize. It's valuable perspective. Ryan found himself smiling. Actually, my company has been integrating more sustainable technologies in recent designs. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what more could be done. For the next 20 minutes, they talked animatedly about hydrogen fuel cells, biodegradable materials, and wildlife-friendly hull designs. Ryan found himself captivated not just by her obvious intelligence but by her passion. She spoke with her hands, her eyes dancing with enthusiasm. You know, most guys' eyes glaze over when I get started on marine conservation, Megan said with a self-deprecating laugh. Ryan shook his head. I find it refreshing to talk to someone who cares about something beyond. He trailed off, realizing he was about to say beyond my money. Beyond what? She prompted. Beyond the superficial, he finished, taking another sip of wine. Their server approached with a basket of bread and took their drink order: sparkling water for Megan. Not a wine drinker, Ryan asked, curious. I enjoy it occasionally, but I have an early dive tomorrow. Research waits for no weekend, she smiled. What about you? What do you do when you're not designing luxury boats? The question caught him off guard. Most people assumed his life was an endless parade of glamorous events and exotic travel. I sail, actually, not professionally, just it helps me think. And I read more than I should, mostly historical biographies and physics books. He shrugged. Not very exciting. On the contrary, that sounds wonderfully peaceful. She broke a piece of bread in half. I think we've all had enough exciting in the last few years. Ryan found himself telling her about his passion for classical music, his terrible attempts at cooking, and his rescue dog, details he rarely shared with anyone outside his immediate circle. She listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions and laughing genuinely at his self-deprecating stories. 40 minutes passed and they were deep in conversation about their favorite coastal spots when Ryan's phone buzzed. It was a text from Alex. Traffic's insane. Lauren's car won't start. Take the hint and enjoy your date. I'll make it up to you. Ryan stared at the message, comprehension dawning. This hadn't been a delayed arrival, it was a setup from the beginning. His brother had never intended to join them. Everything okay? Megan asked, noticing his expression. Ryan hesitated, then showed her the message. I think we've been manipulated. Megan read it, then burst out laughing. Lauren did the same thing to me. She practically pushed me out the door, insisting I couldn't be late. She shook her head. I should have known when she made me change outfits twice. Ryan felt a flash of embarrassment. I'm sorry about this. If you'd rather cut the evening short, I completely understand. Megan tilted her head, studying him with those remarkable amber eyes. Why would I do that? I'm having a wonderful time, unless... Her confidence faltered slightly. Unless you'd prefer to leave. No, Ryan said quickly, surprised by his own certainty. I'm enjoying myself more than I have in, longer than I care to admit, her smile returned. Then let's order dinner and see where this unexpected evening takes us. They shared plates of homemade pasta and seafood, trading stories and discovering unexpected commonalities. She'd grown up in a coastal town in Oregon. He'd spent summers sailing with his grandfather off the California coast. They both preferred mountains to deserts, rainy days to sunshine, and had the same favorite childhood book. Not once did she ask about his wealth or status. When the check came, she reached for her purse, but Ryan gently insisted on paying. "You can get the next one," he said without thinking, then froze, realizing the presumption in his words. But Megan just smiled. "I know a great breakfast place near the marina. They make incredible blackberry pancakes." Ryan felt something unfamiliar flutter in his chest. Hope, perhaps. "I'd like that." They stepped outside into the cool evening air. "Can I walk you to your car?" Ryan offered. "Actually, I took a rideshare. Lauren and I live in the same building, so we usually carpool." "Let me drive you home," Ryan said immediately, then added, "No pressure or expectations. Just transportation." Megan considered for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you. That would be nice." He led her to the parking lot where his car waited, not the Ferrari or the Aston Martin, but the more subdued Range Rover he used for everyday driving. He opened her door, acutely aware of her proximity as she slid past him into the passenger seat. As they drove through the night-lit streets, Megan directed him toward an older apartment building in a modest neighborhood overlooking the marina. Ryan found himself driving slower than necessary, reluctant for their evening to end. When he pulled up outside her building, he turned to her. "I had a really wonderful time tonight, Megan, even if it was orchestrated by our meddling friends." She smiled, the streetlight casting a gentle glow on her features. "So did I. And for the record, I'm not usually so easily manipulated into blind dates." "Neither am I," Ryan admitted. "My brother caught me at a vulnerable moment." "Well, I'm glad he did." She hesitated, then reached for her phone. "Would you like to exchange numbers? For those blackberry pancakes?" Ryan felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through him as they traded information. When she stepped out of the car, he impulsively got out as well, walking her to the entrance. "Good night, Ryan," she said softly. "Thank you for dinner and the conversation." "Good night, Megan." He wanted to say more, to find some way to convey the unexpected impact of their evening, but all the words felt inadequate. She seemed to understand anyway, offering a small wave before disappearing inside. Ryan stood there for a long moment, feeling as though something fundamental had shifted in his carefully controlled world. Back in his car, he found himself smiling at nothing in particular. His phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "So, did you survive?" Ryan typed back. "You're still in trouble, but thank you." He drove home along the coastal road, the moonlight dancing on the waves, already thinking about breakfast and blackberry pancakes. The next morning, Ryan woke earlier than usual, a sense of anticipation humming through him. He checked his phone, half expecting to find a message from Megan canceling their breakfast plans. Instead, he found a text sent just 10 minutes ago. "Still up for pancakes? I can be ready in an hour if that works for you." He replied immediately. "Absolutely. I'll pick you up at 9. Ryan caught himself humming as he showered and dressed in casual clothes, jeans, and a simple gray Henley. He deliberately left his Rolex in its case, opting instead for the waterproof dive watch he used while sailing. The drive to Megan's apartment felt shorter this time. She was waiting outside, dressed in fitted jeans and a soft blue sweater, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. She looked even more beautiful in the morning light. "Good morning," she said, sliding into the passenger seat. "Sleep well?" "Surprisingly, yes," Ryan admitted. "You, like a rock, must have been all that pasta." She smiled, the gesture lighting up her whole face. "The place is about 10 minutes from here, along the coast. They have outdoor seating with an incredible view." As they drove, Ryan found himself stealing glances at her profile. In daylight, he noticed the light freckles dusting her nose and cheekbones, the way her eyes changed from amber to almost gold in the sunlight. The restaurant was a small, weathered building perched on a bluff overlooking the ocean. Wooden tables dotted the expansive deck, most already filled with weekend breakfast goers. Megan, the hostess, a gray-haired woman with laugh lines around her eyes, greeted them warmly. "Your usual spot is open." "Thanks, Carol," Megan turned to Ryan. "I come here most weekends." "The owner's son is one of our research assistants at the Institute." Carol led them to a corner table with an unobstructed view of the coastline. "Who's your handsome friend?" she asked Megan with an unsubtle wink. "This is Ryan," Megan said, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "Ryan, this is Carol. She makes the best coffee in 3 counties. Any friend of Megan's is welcome here," Carol said warmly. "I'll bring you both some coffee to start." Once they were seated, Ryan took in the spectacular view. The Pacific stretched endlessly before them, sunlight glittering on its surface. Several boats dotted the horizon, pleasure craft taking advantage of the perfect weather. "This place is incredible," he said honestly. "How did you find it?" "My first week in town, I got caught in a rainstorm during a morning run. Carol saw me from the window and waved me in." Megan smiled at the memory. "She wrapped me in a blanket, gave me hot coffee, and told me all the local gossip. I've been coming ever since." Their coffee arrived along with menus, though Megan assured him the blackberry pancakes were the only real choice. They ordered, and Ryan found himself relaxing into the comfortable atmosphere. "So, you mentioned a dive today," he asked, sipping his coffee, which was indeed exceptional. "Yes, we're documenting the marine life around some artificial reefs. It's part of a long-term study." Her enthusiasm was evident as she described the project. "We're trying to determine which designs best promote biodiversity while withstanding ocean conditions." "That sounds fascinating." "I'd love to see your work sometime," Ryan said, genuinely interested. "Really? Most people's eyes glaze over when I start talking about marine ecosystems." "I'm not most people," Ryan said simply. Something shifted in her expression, a softening, perhaps recognition. "No, you're certainly not." Their pancakes arrived enormous, fluffy stacks studded with plump blackberries and drizzled with a subtle lavender-infused syrup. Ryan took a bite and couldn't suppress a sound of appreciation. "Told you," Megan laughed. "Worth getting up for, right?" "Absolutely," Ryan agreed, savoring another bite. "Though I suspect the company plays a part." Their conversation flowed easily through breakfast, ranging from childhood memories to favorite books to dream travel destinations. Ryan found himself sharing stories he rarely told anyone about his early struggles establishing his company, the first design he ever sold, the mentor who believed in him when no one else did. "You really love what you do," Megan observed. "I can hear it in your voice when you talk about design." Ryan nodded. "It's never felt like work to me. Even when I was putting in 18-hour days and sleeping on the office sofa, it felt like purpose." "I understand that completely," she said. "My colleagues tease me about practically living at the research facility, but there's nothing like the feeling of discovery, of contributing something meaningful." Ryan studied her across the table, struck by the passion in her eyes. Most people he encountered in his professional life were motivated primarily by money or status. Megan clearly operated from a different set of values. As they finished their breakfast, Ryan found himself reluctant for their time together to end. "What time is your dive?" he asked, hoping it wasn't imminent. "Not until 1, she replied. "We're meeting at the Institute to prep equipment first." Relief washed through him. "Would you like to walk on the beach for a bit? It seems a shame to waste such perfect weather." Megan's smile was answer enough. After Ryan insisted on paying for breakfast, "You can get the next one," he echoed her words from the previous night. They made their way down a winding path to the stretch of beach below. The sand was cool beneath their feet as they removed their shoes, walking close to the water's edge. Few others were out this early, giving them a sense of privacy despite the open space. "So, Ryan Northwood, boat designer," Megan said after they'd walked in comfortable silence for a while. "There's something you're not telling me." Ryan tensed slightly. "What do you mean?" "Last night when you talked about your work, you were deliberately vague, and you keep using phrases like my company and my designs." She glanced sideways at him. "I'm guessing you're not just an employee at some yacht design firm." Ryan hesitated, then sighed. "You're observant." "Scientist," she reminded him with a small smile. "Observation is part of the job." He stopped walking, turning to face the ocean. "I founded Northwood Marine 15 years ago. We design and oversee construction of custom luxury yachts." He paused. "Very high-end custom yachts." Understanding dawned in her eyes. "Oh, you're not just successful. You're successful." Ryan nodded, watching her carefully. This was usually the moment when people changed, when their perception of him shifted, when dollar signs replaced genuine interest. Megan was quiet for a long moment, then said, "That explains why Alex thought it was important to mention that I'm unimpressed by wealth." "Does it bother you?" Ryan asked, suddenly vulnerable. She considered the question seriously. "It doesn't change who you are. The man I had dinner with last night, who's passionate about design and loves sailing and can't cook to save his life." She smiled slightly. "But I'd be lying if I said it doesn't intimidate me a little." Her honesty was refreshing. "Most people either try to use me for my money or pretend it doesn't exist at all. Both get exhausting." "I can imagine." She resumed walking, and he fell into step beside her. "For what it's worth, I genuinely had no idea." "Lauren just said you were Alex's brother who works too hard and needs to get out more." Ryan laughed. "That sounds like Alex's assessment." "Is he wrong?" Megan asked, her voice gentle. Ryan considered the question. "No," he admitted. "The company has grown so much in the last few years. We have offices in Monaco, Dubai, Singapore. I spend more time in meetings and on planes than actually designing." "What would you do if you could step back? If money and responsibility weren't factors?" The question caught him off guard. No one had asked him that in years. "I'd design more. Be more hands-on with the projects I care about. Maybe share what I've learned with young designers." He looked at her curiously. "What about you? If resources weren't an issue for your research?" Her eyes lit up. "I'd expand our artificial reef program. Create a network of marine conservation zones with sustainable human interaction models. Prove that we can coexist with ocean ecosystems without destroying them." "That's a worthy goal," Ryan said sincerely. They walked further, exchanging ideas and dreams, their hands occasionally brushing against each other. Ryan felt a charge each time their skin connected, a subtle electricity he hadn't experienced in years if ever. Eventually, Megan checked her watch. "I should probably head back soon. Need to get my gear together before the dive." "Of course," Ryan said, tamping down his disappointment. "Can I drive you to the Institute?" "That would be great, thanks." As they walked back toward the restaurant where his car was parked, Ryan gathered his courage. "Megan, I'd really like to see you again. Perhaps dinner this week." Her smile was immediate and warm. "I'd like that too." The drive to the Coastal Research Institute was too short. When they arrived at the modern, glass-fronted building overlooking the marina, Ryan pulled into a visitor spot. "Thank you for breakfast," he said. "And the walk." "Thank you for the company," she replied. "And for being nothing like I expected from a blind date," Ryan laughed. "I aim to defy expectations." She hesitated, then leaned across the console and pressed a soft, brief kiss to his cheek. "I'll text you about dinner," she promised, then slipped out of the car before he could respond. Ryan watched her walk toward the building, a slight spring in her step that made him smile. He sat there for a long moment after she disappeared inside, touching his cheek where her lips had been, feeling strangely like a teenager again. His phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "So, second date already? Lauren says Megan never does breakfast dates." Ryan typed back, "We're having dinner this week, and you're still in trouble for the setup." 3 dots appeared as Alex typed his response. "You're welcome, big brother. Name your first kid after me." Ryan rolled his eyes but couldn't suppress his smile as he drove home, already thinking about where to take Megan for dinner, somewhere special, but not ostentatious. Somewhere they could talk for hours again. For the first time in years, Ryan felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest possibility. The next few days passed in a blur of work and texting. Ryan found himself checking his phone constantly, smiling whenever Megan's name appeared on his screen. They settled on Wednesday for dinner, and Ryan secured a reservation at a small French bistro, known more for its excellent food than its exclusivity. Wednesday evening found him arriving 15 minutes early, nervously adjusting his cuffs. He'd chosen his outfit carefully, well-tailored but understated, elegant without being showy. The maitre d' led him to a corner table with a view of the restaurant's intimate courtyard garden, lit by string lights that twinkled like stars. Ryan was reviewing the wine list when a movement caught his eye. Megan stood in the entrance, scanning the room. She wore a simple burgundy dress that skimmed her curves, her hair loose around her shoulders. Several diners turned to look as she passed, and Ryan felt an unexpected surge of pride that she was there to meet him. He stood as she approached, momentarily tongue-tied by her beauty. "You look incredible," he managed finally. A slight blush colored her cheeks. "Thank you, so do you." She sat across from him, her eyes taking in the charming space. "This place is lovely. How did you find it?" "An old friend is the chef," Ryan explained. "He trained in Lyon before opening this place a few years ago." Their server appeared with water and menus, recommending the chef's tasting menu. They agreed, and Ryan selected a bottle of wine from a small family vineyard he'd visited in France. "How was your week?" he asked once they were alone again. Megan's face lit up. "Amazing, actually. Remember that artificial reef project I mentioned? We got confirmation of a major grant yesterday. It means we can expand the study significantly." "That's wonderful. Congratulations." Ryan genuinely shared her excitement. "What does that mean practically for your work?" As she explained the implications of the expanded funding, Ryan found himself captivated not just by her words but by her animated expressions. The way she used her hands when discussing something she cared about, the intelligence shining in her eyes. Their first course arrived, delicate sea scallops with citrus and herbs, momentarily pausing their conversation. "This is incredible," Megan said after her first bite. "Your friend is talented." "I'll tell him you said so," Ryan smiled. "Though if you compliment him too much, his ego might not fit in the kitchen anymore." Megan laughed, the sound warming something deep inside him. "How was your week? Any interesting yacht designs in progress?" Ryan found himself telling her about the sustainable yacht concept. He'd been developing a design incorporating cutting-edge green technologies while maintaining the luxury his clients expected. "That sounds revolutionary," Megan said, genuinely interested. "Would you show me the design sometime? I'm curious about how you're addressing some of the environmental challenges." "I'd like that," Ryan said, surprised by how much he meant it. He rarely shared works in progress with anyone outside his design team. As the evening progressed through course after exquisite course, their conversation flowed effortlessly. They discovered more common ground, a shared love of classical music, similar views on politics, the same obscure British mystery series they'd both binged recently. By the time dessert arrived, a delicate lavender creme brulee, Ryan knew he was falling for her. It wasn't just her beauty, though that was undeniable. It was her mind, her passion, her genuine interest in the world around her. The way she listened as intently as she spoke. The fact that not once had she seemed impressed by his wealth or status. After dinner, they strolled through the restaurant's courtyard garden, their hands occasionally brushing against each other. When Ryan finally took her hand in his, she intertwined their fingers naturally, as if they'd been doing this for years rather than days. "I've had a wonderful evening," she said softly as they reached the garden's small fountain. "So have I," Ryan replied, turning to face her. In the gentle glow of the string lights, her eyes seemed to hold all the warmth in the world. He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. Instead, she rose slightly on her toes, meeting him halfway. Their lips connected softly, tentatively at first, then with growing certainty. Ryan felt as though something that had been missing had finally clicked into place. When they pulled apart, Megan's smile was shy but radiant. "I've been wanting to do that since breakfast on Sunday," she admitted. "I've been wanting to do that since you sat down across from me at dinner on Saturday," Ryan countered, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The drive to her apartment was filled with comfortable silence, their hands linked on the console between them. When they arrived, Ryan walked her to her door, savoring these last moments together. "When can I see you again?" he asked, unwilling to say goodnight just yet. "I'm free this weekend," Megan offered. "Maybe Saturday. We could do something outdoors if the weather's nice." "Saturday sounds perfect." Ryan hesitated, then added, "I'd like to take you sailing if you're interested. Nothing extravagant, just a day on the water." Her face lit up. "I'd love that. I'm on the water all the time for work, but rarely just for pleasure." "It's a date then," Ryan said, feeling lighter than he had in months, maybe years. Their goodnight kiss lingered, full of promise and possibility. Ryan drove home in a state of happy disbelief, already counting the hours until Saturday. The next few days dragged by in endless meetings and conference calls. Ryan found himself distracted, his thoughts constantly drifting to Megan. They texted throughout the day's small observations, questions, funny moments from their respective workdays. Each message strengthened the connection growing between them. Saturday dawned clear and perfect, mild temperatures, gentle breezes, ideal sailing conditions. Ryan prepared the Seawind, his personal 40-foot sailing yacht, with special care. It was the first boat he designed entirely on his own, modified over the years but still his favorite vessel. He picked Megan up at 9, finding her dressed perfectly for a day on the water in white shorts, a navy top and deck shoes, her hair braided back from her face. "Someone sailed before," he observed with approval. "My dad had a small sailboat when I was growing up," she explained as they drove to the marina. "Nothing fancy, but I learned the basics." Ryan's slip was in the private section of the marina, away from the more crowded public areas. As they approached, The Seawind came into view sleek and elegant with her navy hull and teak decking. "That's your boat?" Megan asked, her eyes widening slightly. "This is the Seawind," Ryan confirmed, watching her reaction carefully. "She was my first complete design after I started the company." Megan walked slowly around the vessel, her trained eye clearly taking in the details. "She's beautiful," she said finally. "The lines are. There's something almost organic about her design, like she belongs on the water." Pride swelled in Ryan's chest. "That's exactly what I was aiming for. Most luxury yachts look imposed on the water. I wanted something that felt like a natural extension of the ocean." He helped her aboard, giving her a quick tour of the yacht's features. Unlike the opulent vessels he designed for many clients, the Seawind was elegant in its simplicity, high-quality materials, and smart design rather than ostentatious luxury. They cast off, Ryan guiding the yacht smoothly out of the marina. Once they reached open water, he unfurled the sails, and the engine went silent as the wind caught the canvas. "Want to take the helm?" he offered. Megan's surprise quickly gave way to delight. "Really? Are you sure? I've seen how you handle yourself. I trust you." Ryan positioned her at the wheel, standing close behind her, his hands occasionally covering hers to make small adjustments. The yacht responded beautifully to her touch, cutting through the waves with grace. Megan's joy was evident in her laughter, in the way she leaned into the wind, in her confident handling of the vessel. They sailed north along the coastline, past rugged cliffs and hidden coves. Ryan pointed out landmarks and shared stories about the area's maritime history. Megan spotted a pod of dolphins, and they changed course slightly to sail alongside the playful creatures as they rode the yacht's bow wave. Around noon, Ryan guided them into a secluded cove with crystal-clear water. They dropped anchor, and he produced a picnic from the galley: crusty bread, local cheeses, fresh fruit, and chilled white wine. They ate on the deck, talking and laughing in the warm sunshine. After lunch, Megan looked longingly at the clear water below. "I didn't bring a swimsuit," she said regretfully. "There's a collection of spares in various sizes below," Ryan told her. "Guests often forget their own." Her eyes lit up. "In that case, I'd love a swim." While she changed below deck, Ryan tidied their lunch and prepared towels. When she emerged in a simple navy one-piece, her hair released from its braid, he momentarily lost his train of thought. "The water looks amazing," she said, either not noticing or politely ignoring his stare. Ryan changed quickly and joined her at the swim platform. They dove in together, the cool water refreshing after the warm sun. They swam side by side, occasionally splashing each other like children, their laughter echoing across the cove. Later, they lay on the deck drying in the sun, talking about everything and nothing. Ryan found himself opening up about things he rarely discussed: his parents' early deaths, the responsibility of raising Alex when he was barely an adult himself, the loneliness that sometimes accompanied his success. Megan listened attentively, offering her own stories in return: her parents' difficult divorce, her struggle to be taken seriously in a male-dominated field, her decision to prioritize career over relationships until now. "Until now," Ryan echoed, turning on his side to look at her. She met his gaze steadily. "Until now." The kiss that followed was different from their earlier ones: deeper, more certain, laden with growing emotion. Ryan pulled her close, reveling in the feel of her in his arms, the taste of salt on her lips, the soft sound she made when he traced his hand down her spine. They reluctantly parted when a motorboat roared past the mouth of the cove, breaking the illusion of privacy. Ryan checked his watch, surprised to find the afternoon slipping away. "We should head back soon if we want to reach the marina before sunset." he said regretfully. The return journey was peaceful, the setting sun painting the sky in spectacular shades of gold and crimson. Megan sat close beside Ryan at the helm, her head occasionally resting on his shoulder. As they approached the marina, Ryan found himself wishing the day would never end. From Megan's wistful expression, she felt the same. "This has been one of the best days I've had in years," she said softly as they secured the yacht to its moorings. "For me too," Ryan admitted, helping her onto the dock. "Though I'm beginning to think any day with you would qualify." Her smile was worth every moment of vulnerability. Smooth talker, only when it's true. He took her hand as they walked back toward his car. "Would you like to have dinner? I'm not ready for today to end." "I'd love that, but—" She hesitated. "Could we do something simple? I'm not exactly dressed for anywhere fancy." She gestured to her casual clothes and wind-tousled hair. "I know just the place," Ryan assured her. He drove them to a small beachside shack known for incredible fish tacos and cold beer served in plastic cups. They sat at a weathered picnic table overlooking the ocean, eating with their fingers and talking until long after the sun had set, the conversation flowing as easily as it had from their very first meeting. When Ryan finally drove her home, they lingered in the car, reluctant to part. "Thank you for today," Megan said. "It was perfect. Thank you for sharing it with me." Ryan brushed a strand of hair from her face. "When can I see you again?" "I have a conference in San Diego until Wednesday," she said regretfully, "but I'm free after that." "Wednesday evening, then," Ryan confirmed. "I'll count the hours." Their goodnight kiss was tender and promising, leaving Ryan with a sense of anticipation he hadn't felt since childhood Christmases. The days until Wednesday crawled by. Ryan threw himself into work, finalizing the eco-friendly yacht design he'd told Megan about. They texted when they could and spoke on the phone each night, their conversations lasting for hours despite her busy conference schedule. By Wednesday, Ryan was practically vibrating with anticipation. He'd planned a quiet evening at his home, a risky move, perhaps, but he wanted to cook for her himself, one of the few meals he could manage without disaster, and show her the detailed models of his sustainable yacht concept. He spent the afternoon preparing his clifftop home, ensuring it appeared welcoming rather than intimidating. He moved some of his more valuable art pieces to his private study, set the dining table on the ocean-facing terrace, and prepared the ingredients for a simple but elegant pasta dish. Megan arrived precisely on time, looking slightly nervous but beautiful in a casual dress. Her eyes widened as she took in the house, the soaring ceilings, the wall of windows overlooking the Pacific, the understated luxury evident in every detail. "This is quite a place," she said, accepting the glass of wine he offered. "It's too big for one person," Ryan admitted, "but I fell in love with the view." He led her to the terrace where the sun was beginning its descent into the ocean. Megan gasped softly. "I can see why. This is spectacular." Ryan gave her a brief tour, keeping it casual, emphasizing the spaces he actually used rather than the showier rooms. She relaxed visibly when they reached his home office, which was comfortably cluttered with design materials, books, and models of various vessels. "This feels like you," she observed, examining a half-completed scale model on his workbench. "It's where I spend most of my time when I'm home," Ryan confirmed. He hesitated, then pointed to a covered model on a separate table. "That's the eco-yacht concept I mentioned. Would you like to see it?" Her enthusiastic nod warmed him. He carefully removed the cover, revealing a detailed model of a sleek 120-foot yacht. As he explained the various sustainable features, solar sails, hydrogen fuel cells, biodegradable materials, systems designed to minimize impact on marine environments. Her genuine interest and insightful questions reminded him why he'd been drawn to her from the beginning. "This is revolutionary, Ryan," she said when he'd finished. "If you can get your wealthy clients to embrace these technologies." "That's the plan," he confirmed. "Use their desire for the newest, most advanced designs to drive adoption of these systems. Eventually, they'll become standard across the industry." "Clever," she said approvingly. "Using luxury as a vehicle for environmental progress." They moved to the kitchen, where Ryan insisted on cooking while she sat at the island counter with her wine. He was no chef, but he could manage his grandmother's pasta carbonara recipe without embarrassment. "I'm impressed," Megan said as they ate on the terrace, the stars beginning to appear above them. "You said you couldn't cook." "I said I couldn't cook to save my life," Ryan corrected with a smile. "This dish might be the exception that proves the rule." Their dinner stretched into hours of conversation. Ryan found himself sharing dreams and fears. He'd never articulated to anyone his concern that his company had grown too large, his desire to return to the creative aspects of design, his worry that people only valued him for what he could provide rather than who he was. Megan listened, offering her perspective without judgment. In turn, she confided her own insecurities, the struggle to be taken seriously in her field, her fear that her research wouldn't make the difference she hoped for, her occasional loneliness despite loving her work. Later, they moved to the living room where a fire crackled in the large stone hearth. Sitting close together on the sofa, their conversation gradually gave way to more intimate connections, touches, kisses that grew increasingly passionate. When Megan pulled back slightly, her eyes reflecting both desire and hesitation, Ryan immediately gave her space. "Too fast?" he asked gently. She nodded, a mixture of apology and certainty in her expression. "I want to, but this feels important, special. I don't want to rush it." Relief and admiration flooded through him. "I feel the same way," he assured her. "We have time." The smile she gave him was worth any momentary frustration. They returned to conversation and more measured affection, eventually moving outside to the infinity pool deck, where they lay on a wide lounger watching the stars. Megan nestled against his side. "I could get used to this view," she murmured, her voice sleepy and content. "So could I," Ryan replied, knowing he wasn't talking about the stars. He drove her home around midnight, already planning their next date and the one after that. For the first time in his adult life, Ryan found himself thinking beyond work, beyond the next design or contract. He found himself thinking of a future that included sharing his life with someone, with Megan. The following weeks passed in a blur of increasingly intertwined lives. They settled into a rhythm: dinners after work, weekends spent sailing or hiking coastal trails, quiet evenings at his home or her modest apartment. Ryan found himself enchanted by the simplicity of spending time in her space: the overstuffed bookshelves, the collection of sea glass on the windowsill, the comfortable furniture that invited relaxation rather than careful perching. A month after their first date, Ryan attended a fundraising gala for marine conservation as Megan's guest. It was the first time they'd appeared publicly at a professional event, and Ryan found himself enjoying the role reversal, being the supportive partner rather than the central figure. Watching Megan network confidently among her colleagues, passionately explaining her research to potential donors, Ryan felt a surge of pride and something deeper, something he was almost ready to name. Later that night, as they swayed slowly on his terrace to music only they could hear, the ocean stretching endlessly before them, Ryan finally gave voice to what had been growing in his heart. "I'm falling in love with you," he said softly against her hair. I think I have been since you sat down across from me that first night. Megan pulled back slightly to look at him, her eyes shining in the moonlight. I'm falling in love with you too, she whispered. It terrifies me how much sometimes. Why terrifying? He asked, brushing his thumb across her cheek. Because it happened so fast, because you, and I'm just a scientist with student loans and a tiny apartment. She gave a self-deprecating smile. The disparity is occasionally overwhelming. Ryan shook his head firmly. There is no disparity in what matters. You're the most extraordinary person I've ever known, Megan. Your intelligence, your passion, your integrity. Those are worth more than anything I could ever design or build. The kiss she gave him was answer enough. That night, they made love for the first time, slowly and reverently, discovering each other with wonder and growing certainty. Afterward, holding her close as she slept, Ryan knew with absolute clarity that his life had irreversibly changed for the better. 2 months into their relationship, Ryan invited Megan to accompany him to Monaco for the annual yacht show, where Northwood Marine would be unveiling several new designs, including the eco-yacht concept. Are you sure? Megan asked when he extended the invitation. That's a pretty significant step. I'm sure, Ryan said without hesitation. I want you there, not just as my girlfriend, but because your input on the sustainable aspects has been invaluable. The week in Monaco was a whirlwind of presentations, meetings, and glamorous events. Ryan watched proudly as Megan held her own among the industry elite, her expertise in marine ecosystems adding credibility to his sustainability claims. Several potential clients specifically cited her involvement as a deciding factor in their interest. On their final night in Monaco, they dined at a small restaurant overlooking the harbor, away from the industry crowds. Thank you for bringing me, Megan said, her hand linked with his across the table. It's been eye-opening to see your world. Overwhelming, Ryan asked perceptively. Sometimes, she admitted, but also inspiring, seeing how you've maintained your integrity and vision despite all the pressure and money involved. It's remarkable. Having you here has made everything better, Ryan told her honestly. I've never enjoyed one of these events more. When they returned to California, their relationship deepened further. Megan began keeping clothes at his house. Ryan cleared a drawer and closet space without being asked. They developed comfortable routines, morning coffee on the terrace, working side by side in the evenings, her reading research papers while he refined designs. 5 months after their first date, Ryan realized he was ready. He enlisted Alex's help in selecting the perfect ring, something beautiful, but not ostentatious, elegant but practical enough that Megan could wear it even when working. The Saturday of their planned sailing trip dawned clear and perfect. Ryan had arranged everything meticulously: a picnic lunch, champagne chilling, the ring safely tucked in his pocket. They sailed to the same secluded cove where they'd spent that perfect day months earlier. As they anchored, Ryan felt a mixture of nervousness and absolute certainty. This was right. She was right. Everything about their relationship felt like coming home. They swam and lounged in the sun, enjoying their picnic as they had before. When the moment felt perfect, the sun beginning its descent, casting golden light across the water, Ryan took her hand. You know, 6 months ago my brother forced me into a double date I was determined to hate, he began, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. I never imagined I'd fall in love with the girl across the table. Megan's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. You've changed my life, Megan, Ryan continued, reaching into his pocket for the ring box. You've shown me what really matters. You challenge me, support me, inspire me every day. He opened the box, revealing a platinum ring with a perfect sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. "I love you more than I ever thought possible. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded, then found her voice. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, of course I will." The ring slid perfectly onto her finger. Their kiss was salty with her happy tears, full of promise and certainty. Later, as they sailed back toward the marina, Megan kept glancing at her ring in wonderment. "I can't believe this is real," she admitted. "Believe it," Ryan said, pulling her close against him as he guided the yacht homeward. "This is just the beginning." They called their families from the boat, sharing their news to choruses of delighted congratulations. Alex was particularly smug. "I told you to name your first kid after me," he reminded Ryan. "That offer still stands." The sun set behind them as they sailed toward home, casting long golden rays across the water. Ryan looked at Megan, his fiancée, her face glowing with happiness, and felt a certainty deep in his soul. What had started as an unwanted setup had become the greatest gift of his life. Across a dinner table, he had found his future, his partner, his home, and he couldn't wait to begin their life together. 6 months later, they married in an intimate ceremony on the beach, with only close friends and family in attendance. Megan wore a simple white dress that danced around her in the ocean breeze. Ryan couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked toward him across the sand. Their vows were personal and heartfelt. Ryan promised to support her dreams as fiercely as his own, to value substance over status, to never let success overshadow what truly mattered. Megan promised to challenge him when needed, to be his partner in all things, to remember that their greatest luxury was time together. The reception was held on the Seawind, moored just offshore. As they danced under the stars, Ryan held his wife close, marveling at how completely his life had transformed in just over a year. "Happy," he murmured against her hair. "Completely," she assured him, tilting her face up for a kiss. "Though your brother is still insufferably pleased with himself for setting us up," Ryan laughed. "Let him have that. He got one thing right in his life." "One very important thing," Megan agreed, her eyes shining with love. Later, as their guests departed and they prepared to set sail for their honeymoon cruise along the coast, Alex pulled Ryan aside. "Remember when we were kids, and you designed those ridiculous boats on the backs of cereal boxes?" His brother's expression was unusually serious. "You've built everything you dreamed of, the company, the recognition, all of it. But I've never seen you as happy as you are with her." Ryan looked across the deck where Megan stood talking with Lauren, laughing at something, the setting sun highlighting the gold in her hair. "She's the best design of my life," he said simply. Alex clapped him on the shoulder. "Don't forget the deal about naming your first kid after me." Ryan rolled his eyes but couldn't suppress his smile. "We'll consider it," he conceded. As the last guests departed and they cast off, Ryan joined Megan at the helm. Together, they guided the yacht into the open water, the stars beginning to appear above them, the future stretching before them like the endless horizon. "Where to, Mrs. Northwood?" Ryan asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Megan leaned back against him, her hands steady on the wheel. "Anywhere," she said softly, "as long as we're together." And as they sailed into the gathering dusk, Ryan knew with absolute certainty that the reluctant double date that had changed his life had led him exactly where he was meant to be, beside the woman who had shown him that true wealth had nothing to do with money and everything to do with love.